morning. You're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
Well, good morning and welcome back to the Insurance Matchmaking Show. I'm your host, Matt Libby, and I have a guest today. You don't have to listen to just me, but I have Miss Kylie Hoppe here. She is an estate attorney, and so she's going to share some of the things that I get a lot of questions from clients on. Well, how do I do this? When do I do this? And I'm like, I'm not the person to ask. So hopefully she'll share some of that knowledge with you, and then also hopefully I can help her have some input to give to her clients also. So now Kylie and I met. You've heard me talk about BNI. She was a guest at one of my BNI meetings, and I said, we need to get together. And so we had coffee a couple days after that, got to know each other a little bit, and obviously we work with a lot of the same people. As you know, I do a lot of the Medicare, but it's not just Medicare, it's also people who, maybe they're not ready for Medicare yet, but they need to make those plans. And Kylie, I think you told me you are a local girl, right?
Yes. And good morning, listeners. And Matt, thank you so much for having me today. My hometown is actually Albany, Kentucky, just across the state line. But I grew up listening to all of the Cookeville radio stations and coming to Cookeville all the time. So I do consider myself somewhat local. And I attended Tennessee Tech here for college and decided this was just the right spot for me to come back to after finishing law school.
All right. And you have your own law practice now. You have an office in Livingston. Is that correct?
That is correct. I have my own practice, and I do focus primarily on estate planning, probate, business planning, all of those lovely, more transactional areas. And I have my Kentucky and Tennessee licenses.
Oh, okay. So that's a good location for you that you're not too far. I mean, we're not far from Kentucky here, but you're a little closer in Livingston, just right up the road to Albany there. And so that works out well.
Absolutely. Just the perfect right in between spot.
All right. And when did you how long have you had the office there in Livingston now?
Just about a year.
It's about a year now. I knew when we first met, it was fairly new.
Yes.
So that would make sense.
Absolutely. We're still learning and growing and have been very blessed by the encouragement and support I've received so far.
All right. So questions I get a lot, people are talking about, actually, this is the one that is so funny. A lot of times they'll say, should we just get divorced? because of how their benefits are. One spouse needs a lot of medical benefits, or maybe moving, getting close to moving in a nursing home, and that's going to be very expensive. And maybe they didn't work that much, and so they don't have a lot of Social Security. So they think, well, what if we just get divorced? And usually it's the guy saying, because he's usually the one that worked in a factory or something, actually probably pretty good Social Security. But they'll say, and I always tell, I said, I never recommend anybody get a divorce, but
I understand the question, though. It is kind of a hard area when you get to that stage of planning and you're thinking about being responsible for one another's medical expenses. And that's where, you have a lot of techniques with trust that we can use for planning to try to help preserve assets, even looking down to when both spouses have passed away and who they would like to inherit from them. And you can also use tools with prenuptial or postnuptial agreements. Now, those I like to say don't specifically help in terms of getting rid of liability for each other's medical expenses, but they can help, especially if maybe we have a couple that has gotten married later in life and they've each accumulated their own share of assets, or maybe they've got a blended family and they're each thinking that they want their assets to go down to
and that's kind of one of the things that my wife and I are dealing with. We both were married previously, so we do have the blended family. Mm-hmm. So trying to figure out, okay, what assets go to which kid, and the grandkids are all ours. It doesn't matter, but we each have stepchildren in this mix.
Right, and so a lot of people, typically when you think of a prenuptial agreement, most people think of it in the context of divorce, mm-hmm. but actually it is equally and sometimes more helpful for planning purposes in terms of death, because with spouses, let's say you each had a will and you just wanted to leave what you had to your respective children, let's say in a blended family scenario. Well, even if you had that in your will, Tennessee law allows your surviving spouse to come in and claim what's called an elective share based on how long you've been married. But it can be up to 40% because basically Tennessee and several states are saying you can't just disinherit your spouse.
Right.
So with a prenuptial or postnuptial agreement, you can have that where kind of contractually you're agreeing not to take that share from each other.
Right. And you actually did a term there. I kind of hadn't really thought of it. It makes sense. The postnuptial, because you always think about you got to make that agreement before you get married, or otherwise, the community property and all those laws kind of come into place. But you can still kind of make an agreement after you've married and saying, oh, okay, we need to kind of iron this out. And it is in addition then kind of like to a will, because there's certain things in that agreement that won't apply to a will.
Right. They absolutely work together where, like we've been talking, that blended family scenario, we want to ensure that our wishes are carried out for each of our branches and what we want to happen. And so that prenup or postnuptial agreement, that's your kind of contract basis for we're not going to claim against each other's estate, try to take that share, right? And then you have your will or your trust, whatever document you have chosen to express your desires for distribution of your property, and that works in conjunction with that pre or postnuptial agreement.
Right. And you mentioned trust, and a lot of times I'll get those because when I'm working with the Medicare clients, a lot of time they're already in that their health is declining, and a lot of times I don't completely understand it, but I do understand, the 5-year look back on what we call the Medicaid spend down. So I know you deal with a lot of those kinds of things. What are some scenarios of when a trust isn't a good idea because the health is already waning, or they think they're going to maybe be using nursing home benefits within that 5-year span, and it's kind of like too late then probably for some trust or to do some things in trust at that point.
Yes, that's exactly right. The trust for planning kind of to protect assets from potential Medicaid or skilled nursing situation, that's really more helpful when we're more in advance of when we would need it, right? We're not super worried about having to make it through the 5 years, as you mentioned, which what that means, if we've transferred assets, then if you're looking to qualify for Medicaid, they're going to look backwards for 5 years to see if you have gifted or transferred anything away that you could have used to be paying for your health care. So when you're on the cusp of your health already declining and feeling like you're going to need the nursing home care soon, usually the trust is not the best idea because you have that 5 years to work with. At that point, you might need to look to other strategies for things we could still do to try to protect assets a little bit, but that aren't going to impact your eligibility to get on Medicaid in the near future.
Right. Do you have kind of like a benchmark amount of assets somebody has to say, don't even be thinking about, the Medicaid spend down you would probably use? You might hurt your family's inheritance or your legacy because you're trying to divert those assets when you probably are never going to qualify for Medicaid.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I necessarily have a benchmark figure because everybody's a little bit different in terms of what their goals are and what they're looking to protect. Sometimes, a lot of times, actually, it's property, real estate that people are sometimes most concerned about protecting. But you are correct. Sometimes, if you have a certain number of assets, it's just not realistic to think you're going to qualify for Medicaid, so that doesn't necessarily enter the consideration for your estate planning. But I always love to see when I'm having these types of conversations with clients and someone has long-term care insurance. That's like music to my ears.
Right.
So what is your experience on the insurance side? Are there, long-term care insurance or other options besides just this very expensive?
Right. I probably hadn't told you this, but I'm not a big fan of what I call traditional long-term care insurance. I mean, if you have it, it's great. I'm not saying, just quit paying into it because you maybe started it when you were in your 40s or 50s, got it halfway decent rate. But one of the things I don't like about the plans are they have a tendency to raise their premiums. So you didn't lock in that premium necessarily just because you got it when you were younger. The other thing is with your traditional long-term care, they're what I call a use it or lose it. You have a heart attack and pass away, and you've been spending $500 a month on your long-term care. Well, That's just like your car insurance. It's gone. Your house insurance. What you've paid is gone unless you need to file a claim. And in the case of long-term care, you don't. So I try to do some of those different hybrids, life insurance and long-term care hybrids. So the great benefit there is you've got that protection for the long-term care. But if you do pass away without ever using your long-term care, you have beneficiaries who can get that back, get back what you've paid in. So I'm a fan of the hybrid model. The other one is there are annuities that have like a multiplier on the earnings if you're using it for long-term care. And again, those are something that you can have a beneficiary and be inherited. Where, a lot of times that beneficiary is your spouse, but it's something you can also pass on to your children or your heirs, I should say. And so it's not a use it or lose it. So those are the avenues I usually approach it. And usually, because what happens is when people ask me about long-term care, they're, again, those people like I talked about, they're getting ready for Medicare. Their health is not the best. And that's what a lot of times, they can't even get the long-term care plans because their health doesn't qualify now. It's kind of like with life insurance. I tell the young people, get it when they think they're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Get it now when you're young because, and one of my favorite phrases, because when you're old and round like me, it's going to be more expensive.
Well, it sounds like I have a new recommendation to pass along to my clients.
Right. I can sell, and actually most of the companies are getting out of, I only have one carrier currently that I can sell traditional long-term care through. There's a lot of other companies that do the hybrid with the life insurance plans or the annuities. So those are some good options. And a lot of times, I've got one company, you don't have to be in the best health and still be able to get the plan and have those benefits. So I actually have one of those plans, and I probably, if I'd just applied for a traditional long-term care, they probably would have turned me down. I'm a type 2 diabetic. I'm overweight. I take blood pressure medicine. So those are things. So there are some things you can get, and I guess a lot of times people start thinking about it when it's really too late to start planning that. One of the things I tell people on my Medicare 101 workshops is, I'm sorry I didn't know you 2 years ago to warn you about Irma. And actually, it looks like we're coming up close to our commercial break. So I'll readdress Irma, and Kylie may have some input there. Also, you can always find the radio show at insurancematchmaking.com. And after this commercial break, we'll be speaking some more with Kylie Hoppe at KAH Law. And we'll talk to you soon.
It's the 97th Annual Putnam County Fair going on now through August 12th. Today at the fair, it's the Open Halter and Western Horse Show in the main arena, along with commercial exhibits in the North Grandstand, and Pioneer Cooking with Larry and Brenda Edmondson. And don't forget about the fair rides with James Gang Amusements. And in the main arena, it's the Monster Truck Show, sponsored by Ford Lincoln of Cookeville. For a complete fair schedule, check out putnamcountyfair.org.
Hello, listeners. Mark your calendars for August 11th at 10 a.m. The Health Department is excited to host a free cooking class in our kitchen at 701 County Services Drive. Come experience healthy cooking with our dietitian, Samantha Sanders. This class will build basic cooking skills, encourage an adventurous palate, and boost your confidence in the kitchen. Spots are limited, so call 931-528-2531 to reserve your spot on August 11th at 10 a.m. for a free cooking class.
Hey everybody, this is Jeff Root, General Manager at Ford Lincoln of Cookeville. Tired of having to dedicate a good chunk of your day to drive your car back and forth from our dealership for service? Have I got good news for you. Ford Pickup and Delivery and Ford Mobile Service. Regardless of where you are, whether it be at home, running errands, we'll pick up your Ford, take it in for service, and drop it off once completed. Sound too good to be true? Just this once, it's not. We at Ford Lincoln of Cookeville are always looking for new innovations to enhance our customer experience. Whether it be our 5-star service before, during, and after the sale, lifetime warranty, and car washes for life, our entire staff is focused on serving our customers, community, and America the best we possibly can. We're also proud to be a main sponsor for this year's 97th Annual Putnam County Fair, going on now through August 12th. Come see us, 1600 Interstate Drive, or visit us online anytime at FordLincolnCookeville.com.
Looking to do some remodeling? Just getting organized? Consider donating your extra household goods and materials to the Habitat Restore. Not only will you be supporting your local community, but all donations are tax deductible. Our inventory is constantly changing. Our prices are well below retail, as well as one-of-a-kind items. Every day's another opportunity for a new deal at Habitat Restore. Pay us a visit at our new location at 560 South Jefferson Avenue, or visit our website at uchabitat.org.
Kids are headed back to school, and your internet needs to be able to keep up with everything this year has to offer. Twin Lakes Gig Speed Internet is fast, reliable, and ready to handle the busy school year. With speeds up to 10 gig, they'll help you find the perfect speed for your busy family. Upgrade to Twin Lakes Internet today. Call 800-644-8582 or visit online at twinlakes.net.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
So, welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking. I mentioned I have my guest, Kylie Hoppe, here, an estate attorney. And I had mentioned something about IRMA just before the commercial break there. And IRMA stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. And what it is, everybody has a Part B premium currently in 2023, it is $164.90. But if you have a higher income, you can get an increase premium on that. It increases your Part B premium and it increases your Part D premium. And I always, as I mentioned, I think just before the break, I warn my people in my Medicare 101 briefings because they're turning 65, and I say, I'm sorry, I didn't know you 2 years ago to tell you not to do this. Because one of the things people think, well, my 401k is doing terrible. I'm just going to cash it out, pay the tax, and not worry about it. If you've done it within 2 years of going on Medicare, it'll spike your income. So I didn't know, maybe, Kylie, if you have kind of some solutions or that I may be sharing something new with you, that maybe that's something to share with your younger clients, the ones that, they're going to be approaching Medicare, but it is a few years before. They're in their 60s, so to kind of help them plan, not only putting things in trust, but ways to reduce their modified adjusted gross income so they don't see that surcharge because they could be right there at the cusp.
Absolutely. I typically will see issues with income and trying to adjust more so on the qualifying for Medicaid side rather than necessarily the Medicare side. But I'm always looking for recommendations to pass along. And I think having the right kinds of insurance with all of the Medicare options and health insurance, also we were talking a little with life insurance, I think that always helps for your own peace of mind. And also, since my area is the estate planning, most of those conversations are revolving around our heirs, usually children, making sure they're taken care of. So I certainly always will recommend consulting with insurance professionals such as yourself in conjunction with the legal side that I work on. Now, when do you normally recommend people start looking into Medicare insurance, their options, kind of planning ahead for that?
Well, generally, if they know, there's not a lot we can plan, way in advance. But I do get some people who will come in that they're maybe looking at taking an early retirement. And so not so much the Medicare planning, but they'll kind of like, okay, what can I do about my health insurance until I'm eligible for Medicare? Because they've been on a group plan all their life and they don't know what their options are. I'll actually get some people come in, just want to know, can they afford to quit their job and pay for their own insurance? I've had a few people decide, maybe I need to wait another year or two because what they would pay for insurance is so high. There are alternatives currently to the marketplace plans that there's rumors that may kind of change. They may put some more restriction on us. But someone with a higher income, they don't qualify for those tax credits that help pay for the insurance. And when you're in your 60s, those premiums are really high. So those alternative plans, even though they're still they could probably be higher than what you were paying for your group plan, are generally affordable, but you have to be in good health to get them. So what'll happen there, when they look at those tax credits, they don't have them because their income's higher, but they can't qualify for those alternative plans because of certain health conditions. So then it makes more sense to go, well, maybe work another year or two and pay for that and wait till they're actually eligible for Medicare. Because I get a lot of people think, oh, I can get my Social Security at 62. I'm going to sign up for Medicare. No, Medicare, you still have to wait to 65. In the aging process, there some people who get on disability after 2 years, they can get Social Security or get Medicare after they've had Social Security disability benefits for 2 years. But generally, the majority of people who have Medicare is because they've hit that 65th birthday. So anytime after they turn 64 is really the time to plan their Medicare, because they can sign up and there's a window for them to sign up, and it revolves around their birthday. Now, of course, they're, once you hit that 64th birthday, and some people get the calls even when they're not 64, but they really pile up. The mail piles up, everything. And all I say is, if you're not calling me, find somebody local. I've gotten mail lately from people, a couple of them are local. I've got ones from Murfreesboro telling me they're local. Don't call the 800 numbers is my favorite phrase. People probably get tired of hearing me saying is don't call Joe. And that's those reference to the Joe Namath commercials and all those kind of misleading ads. Those actually help me in some ways because people go, what is this I keep hearing about? Do I need to sign up for this? So a lot of times it's like, no, you want to keep what you've got, or what they're advertising is what you have, but that really great benefit of getting that $500 food card you're not going to qualify for. That's for people on Medicaid. So some of them may have like a food card for, like $25 a month or something like that, but no big benefits. But again, those are Medicare Advantage plans, especially when they hit the middle of the year. They're 64 and a half. That's when we really want to start getting a little more intense on planning the what they're going to do. Some of the companies can let them will let someone sign up for what we call a Medigap or Medicare Supplement plan 6 months before it goes in effect, because it will go in effect on the first day of the month they turn 65. So most companies, though, it's at 3 months. But yeah, we want to kind of start doing some of the planning maybe about 6 months before. And my thing is, I try to encourage people is, when they get a call, oh, I've got a local guy, I can talk to him. So that's where I go with that. So we can kind of plan it ahead of time. We kind of have that idea. Like I said, there's no point in looking at their Medicare benefits before they're 60. The other thing is we don't want to do it too far ahead, because I can, even like with the under 65, the ACA health plans, until I know what the premiums in the rate for the tax credits are going to be, I can't give a lot of advice. I can only base it on what's today's prices. So I can give them kind of an idea, but come January, it could be a totally different scenario. The Medicare Advantage plans, they have to submit their plans to the CMS every year by July to get or they usually get their approval on their new rates, new structure for July, and that's when you'll find, what the premiums are going to be, or what benefit maybe has a higher copay now than it did last year, or a lower copay. They go both ways. I've actually been surprised. I've seen a couple previews on a couple plans coming out, and I was actually kind of surprised that some of the things I expected to increase have remained the same, or actually even decreased a little bit. And then when we talk about people who are already on Medicare, I can't tell them anything about next year's plan before October 1st. We call it the pre-AEP, because I can look at those plans, we can compare, and they can make a decision right there. Oh, I'm just going to keep what I've got. There's no reason to change. But if they do want to change, I can't do anything until after October 15th, because that's when the enrollment period actually starts. So October 15th to December 7th is that enrollment period every year. It's those dates. Doesn't matter what day of the week they fall on. I always tell people, it's not like taxes where sometimes you get a couple days after the deadline because of a holiday. This one doesn't work that way. It ends on December 7th. If you come to me on December 8th and say, oh, I needed to change my plan, or you might have to wait to January to make a change, or you might not, or even wait till the next fall to make the change, depending on your situation.
It's finding that sweet spot in terms of when you're doing a little pre-planning of, you can't do it too early, but you don't want to be too late.
Right. Yes. I mean, there's some basics we can cover. Like I talked about, like the IRMA thing is like, yes, hopefully I can talk to somebody a little bit ahead of time, because what it is, Medicare, Social Security, they look back 2 years. And so I had that happen to a client, because it was like, took me totally by surprise, because I had helped him with his Medicare, and the spouse was a couple of years younger, so they qualified for a tax credit on an ACA plan. And then we get this finding out that he's happened to pay IRMA, and I'm like, okay, you're going to get hit with a tax when you file your tax. And it's like, no, what it was, they sold a property that was an income property. It wasn't their home. So that's where a lot of people, they'll mix up. And I guess maybe you can address that of, sometimes it makes sense not to change who owns the home.
Yes, that's kind of ties back in with what we were talking about with that 5-year look back period when you start transferring properties, making gifts. And to be clear, what I mean by transfer, not selling something, but just giving something to someone. Of course, that can cause issues if someone is looking within the next 5 years to possibly have to qualify for Medicaid, or maybe, they're looking at that skilled nursing care, in a nursing home facility.
I want to make sure we don't run out of time here. We're coming up close to the end. How do people find you, Kylie?
Well, you can find me on my website. It's www.kah.law, or my phone number is 931-823-7828. My office is right there on the square in Livingston, so if you happen to be dropping into town for lunch or shopping around a little bit, you're welcome to come by and see me as well.
Right. And if you notice, she didn't say .com. It's KAH.law.
Yes.
So that's an interesting extension there, but I know everybody's used to the .coms and the .nets. This one's .law, so don't forget that. And she gave you your phone number. Eventually, this is also going to be in podcasts, so you may be able to back up and replay it. But right now, when this is aired, that's when you got to hear it. So you may want to write it down quick. But you can also you can go to insurancematchmaking.com and leave me a message there and say, hey, you had Kylie on there. What'd she say her phone number was? And I can respond to you and get that to you. So we definitely want to make sure. I always, whenever I have a guest, I want them to plug their business. It's an incentive for them to come on and be on the radio with me. And the way this conversation's been going, we actually may want to do a second installment. So we're coming up, like I said, at the end of our time for this program. But I'm just giving you a sneak peek that we might do a second show with Kylie. So, of course, my name's Matt Libby with Insurance Matchmaking. The easiest way to find me, I think, is to go to insurancematchmaking.com. That also has a link to my main website, my phone number. My office is really easy to find. It's right straight up North Willow. When you see the Domino sign, get ready to turn left. We're right next door to the Bravo Cafe and Grill, so a lot of people are familiar with that. But just a little bit before you get to the tech campus, we're right there, 528 North Willow, and we will talk to you again next week.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.